so I suppose we'll start with my father. So he was born in Bombay, not Mumbai, Bombay, in 34, 35, I can't remember.
Okay.
I think that's about right. Can't remember. They were Jewish rather than any of the more indigenous religions of India. He left Bombay and came to England in 1954 approximately, where he joined the army initially, and that's where he met my mother, and I came along. So he stayed and got married. You can read into that what you want, but it's all true.
So what about your dad's background? If you tell us a wee bit about that, where did he live in India and that kind of thing?
Okay, so in India he grew up in Jacob Circle, or just off Jacob Circle, in Bombay, and he was one of quite a lot. He left when he was 20, 21, I think.
Okay.
As far as I can work out, he wasn't the best of students, since he got apparently thrown out of every school and went to 5 schools. So I don't really know what he did as such in India. I know my grandfather seemed to be, from what I've been told and from what I can understand, did reasonably well in that they were the top floor apartment in a reasonably good neighbourhood.
Yeah.
He seemed to do a lot of repairs for people and
so he
radios and things like
his own
that.
business then, really?
I think, from what I can understand. My father came here on the promise of a job with Hoover,
Right, okay.
which apparently my grandfather had obviously some connection in India with, but I don't think that materialised.
Right.
But after the army he went into engineering and was an air conditioning
Okay.
engineer, and he did commissioning of plants, and so that was quite he travelled a lot, so he wasn't always there during the week.
And how did he find living in the UK then compared to living in India? Do you think he had any difficulties, like food wise, or fitting in?
Well, I think it was a bit strange because my father married a white Christian.
Yeah, okay.
He's used to. And my grandfather was very Jewish. He actually said the prayers for the dead.
Oh, right. Okay.
For my father, so he was cut off.
Oh, right.
And we didn't really. Well, I grew up with a photograph or two of this strange family in India because I'm quite pale complexion myself. Going, well, I'm Indian, but
I don't really fit in.
Don't know where these people are. So in 1970, we went. They'd moved to Israel by 1970. So we went to Israel, and there was a bit of a meeting on forgiveness, and everybody got back together. So that was interesting. That was the first introduction to the foreign family and to foreign food. Although I do remember my father, travelled, as I said, he would periodically come back from London, and we would have coriander and mangoes and exotic things that you never saw in the UK at that stage. It was very, very different, and chilies and ginger, which you definitely wouldn't have got in Gloucester.
No, definitely not. I think I've talked to some people who came in the 60s and said basically there was nothing. They came straight from India, and it was like potato bread, and it was completely alien diet to them.
It is correct. So it's a very. But then, and my mother, of course, when she went to Israel in 71. All I remember is she cried most of the time because she couldn't eat the food. It was too hot and it was no good, and she couldn't deal with it at all.
So it's the reverse. Yeah. So you'd said that you had travelled to India. What was you went recently? What was your first impressions of India whenever you got there and got off the plane? What was the thing that hit you
Oh
the
my
most?
God. In some respects.
Yes.
In that, I think it was an overpowering experience, and one I don't think anybody ever forgets the first time they step off the plane in Bombay. It is a very different world to the West or the where we live. But after you get over that, fantastic. I mean, it was a very good place. I mean, we had a very the experience of going to India probably was unlike most tourists in so much as, yet similar. In that, I think the first couple of nights we spent in the YWCA because we were my Indian family said, well, this is a good place to go, it's cheap and it's fine. On the other hand, we stayed in 5-star accommodation, and we also stayed, with relatives or extended family. There was always this strange thing of I never really knew if somebody was related or whether they were just a friend or they were a cousin of a friend or they were what. But you came from India, therefore you were
welcome to.
I seem to remember the occasional Indian restaurant in London in, I suppose, the 60s, where waiters seemed to know my father from Bombay, and they seemed to be connected somehow, but I could never work it out.
When you were in India, were you eating Jewish food or Indian food, or is there?
Oh no, we're well, yeah, it's the food. The part, some of the family are kosher, and some aren't. But we ate primarily Indian food, and I suppose I would be very clear in that I learnt what vegetarian food should be like, and actually really since then, since we've come home, we eat a lot more Indian food and a lot more vegetarian Indian food. My current wife, who is Irish Catholic, has embraced all of that with me or for me, I don't know which, and so we do a lot of Indian food.